Now on this Thursday night, and we're going to be speaking with our State House insiders now. Antoine Seawright, our Democratic strategist, Dave Wilson, our Republican strategist. Guys, the vaccine making big news this week, a vaccine that has come along in record time here, guys. This is something that I think everybody can agree with when it comes to something like a vaccine for the coronavirus. There's nothing political about this.
Not one thing that's political about this at all, JR. As a matter of fact, it has been a record effort being put forth by both the pharmaceuticals, the Department of Defense, the administration, Operation Warp Speed, everything that has gone in this together to make this possible and to really start addressing this. It is a record timing for all of this, and I think it is apolitical to say that we need to do everything we can to make sure that we get this off of our radar screen as much as possible by 2021.
I agree with that, and I hope this process remains political. But here's a big next step, making the vaccine accessible and affordable for all. I'm 35 years old. I'm Black. I grew up in rural South Carolina. I still live in rural South Carolina. This virus, Dave and JR, has disproportionately impacted people of color. Therefore, the distribution of the vaccine is going to be 10 times even more critical, making certain it gets out to rural communities. And yes, rural communities include people who do not look like me. Make sure there's trust with the Black and brown community about the vaccine and making sure people are aware that they should take it and they need to take it right away. But also those consequential communities that we oftentimes forget about or don't talk about as much, Dave. The prison population, homeless population, college students, mental health community. Some of those communities that somehow get left out and left behind in the conversation, they're going to be critical in terms of getting the vaccine to them and making sure there's trust around the vaccine from those communities.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's vitally important that get to especially every priority community and those of our folks who are working on the front lines.
Right now we're in phase one, guys, and phase one means that healthcare workers and the elderly at assisted living facilities and nursing homes, they're first on the list. It may be late spring or even early summer before everybody who wants a vaccination can get one. The governor was talking about this today, guys. I want you to listen to what he had to say. The governor's saying that when it's his turn to get the shot, he will take it. There's not going to be any special strings pulled for the governor. Take a listen.
The first round, which is just starting now and is going to take weeks to finish, we don't have enough of the vaccine for all of the hospital workers, doctors, nurses, and those that are face-to-face with people with the virus and very ill, and for those in the nursing homes, long-term care. We don't have enough for that yet. So that's where it's going first. And my turn will come later. We're not going to jump the line. We'll wait our turn. But yes, I'll take it.
So, Dave, what do you make of that? The governor's saying, when it's his time to get the shot, that's when he will get the shot.
It's important for people to understand there is nobody who gets a priority listing on this except for, and I think it's been said already, it needs to be our frontline healthcare workers, our public safety workers, those people who are constantly out there in the public, and they need to have that level of protection.
Look, no one gets to skip the line. I appreciate the governor saying that. But here's what I want the governor and DHEC and all those parties involved who are at the decision-making table to know. We have to have a plan. We have to have a plan A, B, and C. Because what we do not know is what challenges will come along with the distribution of the virus. We all know sometimes in rural South Carolina, it takes a week or two for some of the same information that exists in suburban South Carolina to get to rural South Carolina. And so we have to have a statewide plan that's inclusive, which means includes all communities that make up this bigger community called South Carolina. And lawmakers cannot get into the business of trying to politicize what distribution looks like. This is the one time we need to be one band, one sound, but this is also the one time that we have to understand this process will be a marathon, not a sprint. JR, you mentioned the spring. That means direction perhaps is more important than speed.
I want to talk for a moment about Don Fowler now, guys, a longtime Democratic Party powerhouse here in South Carolina, passing earlier this week at the age of 85. Don, as many of you know, was the head of the South Carolina Democratic Party and the National Democratic Party. Antoine, a big loss for not only Democrats in South Carolina, but for the entire state of South Carolina.
I think my friend Jim Clyburn put it best when he says the heartbeat of the Democratic Party has stopped beating. He was a gentleman and a scholar. He was the same person you meet no matter what day of the week. I appreciate the strong, wide shoulders of the Don Fowlers, because there was never a time in which I saw Don Fowler when he did not pull me to the side and told me, you are doing XYZ 1, 2, 3, but you need to be doing ABC if you want to get to the next step in your career. I appreciate that, because we oftentimes learn from the experiences of other people. The good news about a Don Fowler type is that he's respected by Democrats and Republicans by his body of work. And as I learned growing up in the AME church, you always want the work you do to speak for you when it's all said and done. And I can emphatically declare that Don Fowler, throughout his life, made more deposits than he did withdrawals.
I'll second that one, because I had the privilege on a number of different occasions in the professional world of public relations to actually have working time with Don Fowler, to have conversations, to talk about how do we do what needs to be done to influence public policy, to bring about ideas. And he really was just one of those really strong voices. And I'll give him credit on this one as well. He created an atmosphere of working together, even though we're on different ends of the political spectrum. He always had that ability to say, as Antoine just said a moment ago, how do we bring the right people together at the right time to do the right things that need to be done? And that's a blessing that we have had him as part of the political landscape, as diverse as our political landscape can be in South Carolina. But to have him as a part of that has just been a blessing for everybody who's been involved.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Don Fowler. He was always gracious with his time, always a phone call away. Our condolences go out to Carol and the rest of the Fowler family. Guys, that's going to do it for Insiders for 2020. You guys will be back on January 5th. That's when lawmakers, it'll be a week away. Lawmakers will be coming back on January 12th. But hopefully we'll get to hear from you guys January 5th, January 6th, somewhere in that time frame. So Merry Christmas to both of you.
Merry Christmas, Happy holidays, and wear your mask.
Stay safe, everybody. We look forward to seeing you on the other side of 2020 as we get into 2021 and a new legislative cycle.
All right, guys. Again, thank you so much for your time. Stay with us. We're back in just a moment.